Should you just focus on cutting the fat, or should you just focus on gaining the muscle? The question is, how do you know when to do which one? Now the answer here is going to depend on whether you're a male or female and what your body fat percentage is, right? The biggest differences between men and women is that men typically retain 10% less body fat than women. Now this is because men have higher levels of testosterone and lower levels of estrogen, or at least you should, right? And women have higher levels of estrogen and lower levels of testosterone, right? So women store extra body fat, or 10% more body fat than men, because of the fat that's retained in breasts, right? The extra fat that's retained in the butt cheeks, in the thighs, and in the hips, right? Men, you shouldn't really be having that. You shouldn't really be storing the fat there, right? If you are, then you shouldn't even be thinking about, gaining, bulking, whatever you want to call it, right? You should just be focused on cutting, get your testosterone levels to a healthy level, and getting them estrogen levels and them cortisol levels down to a healthy level, right? So let's talk numbers. For a man, for me, the target level of body fat is going to be of a range in between 6% and 10%, right? So before you even think about gaining, bulking, whatever you want to call it, you should first at least make it into 10%. Ideally, you want to at least get to 8%, right? 6% is phenomenal. That's the sweet spot, right? 6%, you see them obliques, little vascularity, whatnot. You look real masculine at 6%, right? From there, you can spend the entire year gaining muscle, getting your volume up, lifting heavy, doing a lot of sets and reps, really maximizing the volume, getting strong, all that good stuff, right? Giving 120% in the gym. For women, it's going to be 10% higher than that, right? So it's going to be in between 16% and 20% body fat percentage, right? Now, usually, women, your average woman, she's in between 25% body fat, 30% body fat, right? There's a lot of skinny fatness going on, right? So even if you're not necessarily overweight, your muscle mass, your lean muscle mass is so small, that percentage is so small that even though you don't necessarily have a weight problem, you look doughy, right? You look watery, right? Maybe you look a little pasty, a little regular, right? You want to be aesthetic, you want to be athletic, you want to look in the mirror and you want to see a strong, defined, curvy body, right? Something you can be proud of, right? You want to look like sculpture. You want them clothes to be fitting and hugging all the right places, right? And tight, getting it together, solid, right? So that's why I say you want to focus on the cut first, to get into that 20%, right? Try to make it towards 18% ideally, 16%, phenomenal. You don't really need to go any less than 16% unless you're trying to have like shredded, ripped abs, right? But there's a price to pay, because the leaner your abs get, the less round your butt cheeks look, right? I'm just keeping it real. You see a lot of Instagram models and they have these crazy cartoonish comic book characters, but understand a lot of that's not natural. They do a lot of BBLs, etc., right? So I'm just saying, let's keep it real. There is a trade-off, right? So as a woman, you don't necessarily want to be as lean as possible and chiseled, right? You just want to have your curves and whatnot flowing in the right way. So there has to be a happy medium. That happy medium is typically around 18%, 18 and 20, 16 is pretty much the cutoff point, but I say 16 because that's where your abs really start to show, right? But of course, if you have smaller breasts or whatever, then it may be 14% for special cases or whatever the case is. So this stuff is kind of on a case-by-case basis with women, right? Women's bodies are a bit more complicated. So this is kind of like a baseline advisory position, right? This is a starting point that I'm just giving you, right? But that's pretty much it. So typically you want to cut once a year. You only want to have to do it one time a year, right? So you take 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks and you do a cut where within that time frame you make sure you get down to your ideal body fat percentage. Of course, if you got 100 pounds to lose or something like that, well, in that case, it may take you a year and a half or something like that, depending on how consistent you are with your efforts and how well your plan works out. But after you get to your ideal body fat percentage, you want to spend, let's say, 8 to 9 months out of the year, maybe even 10 months out of the year, just putting on the muscle, getting stronger, filling out your frame. And then spend 8 weeks or 12 weeks, 16 at the most, cutting the extra unwanted body fat percentage off, right? And then you start a brand new year and repeat, and it's back to gaining.